Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with you again. This is the fourth video in the Versus series, and this one looks at all things Boomerang. Now, we've taken up against quite a range of planes in this video, so here's a list, if you have annotations turned on, of links that you can click to take you to whatever plane you want to see. And we'll start off with the Yak 3. I'm flying the Yak, as you can see, and M120 AMRAAM, my sparring partner, is in the Boomerang. I straight away deployed landing flaps because the Yak 1B fights extremely well with them, so I'm presuming the Yak 3 does as well. In my experience with the Yak 3, which is pretty limited I must say, I've rarely actually got into a dogfight situation, so this is a bit of a new experience for me. Now you may ask, why am I taking it up against such a powerful plane as the Yak 3? Well, that's where the Boomerang is currently tiered. Although it's still a tier 2 plane, it has a battle rating in arcade of 4.0. And we wanted to see why. Is it good enough to actually match tier 3, low tier 3 and very high tier 2 planes? And as you can see, I was struggling to match his turn speed. He was just getting inside me on each of the turns, so I decided just basically to dive and run. And it's taking me a bit longer than I expected to shake him off, but eventually I did. Climbed back up, with a bit of damage now as you can see, and I wanted to force a head on because my guns are centrally mounted, and I'd be much more likely to have success in a head on than he is with his 2 wing mounted cannon. Okay, he's evading me, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Dive and extend away. And once more he's following, but he hasn't been able to keep with me. Yep, he's given up the chase and climbed, so eventually I too climb, and here we go again. So once again we're in the head-on. Aim's ducking under my fire there, but instead of running this time I'm turning to see if he makes a mistake, and he does. Wasn't quite expecting me to begin a turn fight at that point. Now he's taking a bit of damage and he's caught in front of me. He's trying to reverse it first with a climbing spiral, but the Yak's powerful enough to avoid stalling out here, and it seems to handle at low speed quite well. Now he's going into a vertical scissors, but unfortunately that hit has made him catch fire, so even though I overshoot him here, I've managed to avoid his gunfire, lucky for me. And that should just about do it. But that was only a mistake on his part. I would say the Yak would have been in trouble had that dogfight extended much longer. So now I'm going to try a more powerful plane still, the I-185. Now I don't expect it to be able to turn with a Boomerang, but I'm going to give it a go. Landing flaps deployed, just putting it into some very hard turns, and we'll see who comes out on top. The I-185 certainly rolls extremely well, but its elevator turning and rudder isn't really that great. And after 2 passes there with a Boomerang, had no trouble whatsoever keeping with me on diving away, but so focused on my evasive manoeuvres that I forget how overpowered trees are. So let's try that again. As always, we're not firing in the head-on. And after that head-on, I'm going straight into a zoom climb, thinking I could just outclimb him, but not that easy. Going to have to be a bit more subtle about it. But what I'm going to try and do though is use the power of the I-185 to its advantage and see how hard it is to energy fight the Boomerang. Okay, so I've just extended away quite easily. Although he wasn't expecting me to do that, so he wasted a fair bit of energy in the Immelman that he had to perform. So now I'm going to climb, see if I can get him to stall out, and then start boom and zooming. So I've got decent separation. Just looping over the top, I see his lead indicator dropping, and then suddenly it's raised up. I thought he had stalled, he hadn't. So once again I'm diving a bit in this time because I expect that he would dive as well, which he did. But nevertheless I've easily gotten separation. Now to start climbing again. and I may even want to force a head-on because, similar to the Yak, this plane has very powerful nose-mounted cannon, and the Boomerang does not. Once again, he's used a very nice turning technique to duck under my head-on fire. Very good sense of timing as well. He's yo-yoing up at me as I'm trying to climb away, and he's a bit closer than what I'd like. In fact, he managed to wing me, quite literally there. But nonetheless, it seems he's out of energy. So finally I have the advantage to be able to start boom and zooming. And here's where the turn speed, the roll speed of the I-185 really comes into its own. Very easily able to follow his evasive moves there and take him out as he tried to climb in a loop. So now it's my turn to fly the Boomerang, and we're going back to a Tier 2 plane, the Yak 1B, which 120 AMRAAM is extremely good at flying. And has a lot of liking for this plane. So first thing I'm going to do, I've only got combat flaps deployed, and I was easily turning inside him there. That was very short and sweet. And back we come for a second round. I'm just repeating the same thing. I have combat flaps extended. This time it's aim who gets guns on me first. I'm not only trying to outturn him, I'm trying to gain an energy advantage as well. But once again he got guns on me slightly before I could on him, and this time it's me who's going down in flames. But what I realised he was doing at that point, he was using landing flaps on the Yak, and that was the difference. So this time I decided to deploy landing flaps and see if it too boosted the Boomerang's turning speed. Not every plane does receive a boost from using landing flaps. Spitfires in particular do not. And we actually started this exercise thinking that perhaps the Boomerang was using a bit of a copy-pasted flight model from the Spitfire. But as you can see, using landing flaps in the Boomerang gives it a huge advantage. It's almost like I was flying a Zero, the ease with which I got inside his turns. Not only that, but its handling at low speed was quite good. He was trying to out-energy fly me by flying all those loops. But the Boomerang wasn't even close to stalling. And we'll see the same thing here. He's going into a climbing turn. Again, trying to exhaust my energy. And it's just not going to happen. He has to give up the turn before I do. Tries it once again. And the Boomerang is so manoeuvrable, I'm in no real danger of overshooting and getting in his guns that way either. And now he's basically out of options. Raising the flaps because he's running, but he can't get very far. So far so good. The Boomerang looks like a superb plane. AIM wasn't yet ready to concede defeat with the Yak 1 though, so we had one last go. This time he's trying all out to stall me out in a climb. And I'm in firing range. My speed is dropping markedly, but if just a couple of 20mm shells had landed there, he would have been dead. As it is, I have been rope-a-doped. But that could easily have gone either way. Note that was the very same manoeuvre that I tried to pull with the I-185 and was unsuccessful. So let's move on. Next time we're going to take the plane up against a Lag 366, also a Tier 2 plane, but more of a pure energy fighter. I'm only using combat flaps because I don't believe the Lag 3 poses a threat in terms of its turning ability, as indeed it doesn't. Not only am I turning inside it easily, I've got time to roll to match my wings to his trajectory. Now we're into a bit of a vertical scissors, and he's out of energy now, expending the last bit trying to stall me out in the climb. And you can see the condensation off both our wings, but I still have manoeuvrability, whereas the lag does not. And with that he has both a black tail and a black wing. And AIM decides to concede defeat. So far so good. It seems to be defeating Tier 2 planes quite easily. However, they're not dedicated turn fighters. Neither is this plane, a Kittyhawk, another 2.7 battle rating plane. It used to be quite a good turner at one point, but several months ago it received an undocumented change to its flight model, which left it neither really able to turn nor to energy fight particularly well. Almost got guns on me there. I'm just continuing a spiraling turn because I know that I can outturn him, which means he's forced to have to dive away at some point, therefore bringing himself in front of my guns. You can see he's basically stalled at the top of that climb, and that will do it. So is this why the plane was teared up so heavily? Because it simply stomped everything in Tier 2? Well, we'll see. Here's a lower Tier 2 plane, an F2A3 Buffalo. Let's see how it goes against it. And even though I'm using landing flaps, that Buffalo is turning inside me with ease. It had no trouble whatsoever bringing me down. Let's try it again. Got to make sure it isn't a fluke. This time I'm going to start off with only combat flaps, using a split S to gain a bit more speed and energy. But once more, the Buffalo easily gets the advantage. It managed to dogfight the plane far more easily than any Tier 3 plane has so far. Here's another one, the P-36G Hawk, which until recently was only a 2.3 battle rating plane in arcade, but has now moved up to being a 3.0. And here we can see why. It's not troubled at all by whatever I'm trying to do here. I'm out of energy and stalled and rather dead. Once again, to make sure that it isn't a fluke. This time I'm not using flaps at all, seeing if speed makes any kind of difference. And a black wing is a death sentence in a Boomerang, similar to a Spitfire. You cannot maneuver with keys. All an elevator key press will do is make you roll the plane. So you're back down to mouse aim only, which is clumsy. And I had no chance of getting him in my sights anyway. So given that, let's try it against a higher plane, a Spitfire 2B, which used in the old days, before the 20 tier system was abandoned, it used to be a Tier 6 plane, and the Boomerang a Tier 4 plane, which in today's ratings would be a 2.3 battle rating. That's how far the Boomerang has increased. And here we can put paid to the theory that the Boomerang is a clone of any kind of Spitfire flight model. It very easily outflew the Spit. Once more. Rudder and elevator keys combined to start the initial turn. AIM's doing the same thing, and my turn is sharper than his is. Into a vertical scissors, or rolling scissors. And it really was that easy. Spitfire is really quite overrated as a turn fighter. So given it can do that, let's take it up against a Zero. This is the A62M, currently at 3.7 battle rating. And the first thing AIM's doing is pulling me up into a climbing spiral, and because I have landing gear deployed and he does not, I stall. Yes, he managed to stall out a Zero. And for that I am about to pay. Surely it can't be that a Boomerang though is better than a Zero. I refuse to accept that hypothesis. AIM was aware that I was going to be prepared this time for the stall climb tactic, so he's trying to energy fight me in loops. But as you can see, the Zero is easily turning inside his loops. Catch him as he rises. Narrowly avoid somehow a collision there. Perhaps my propeller was just chopping up his tail like some samurai swords would do, and down he goes. So all is right with the world, but one last try. This time AIM again tries to repeat the stall climbing tactic. Get a few hits on him there, but it's not enough to do any serious damage, and then up into the climbing spiral we go. But as I don't have landing flaps deployed, only combat flaps, and I was prepared for it. That was it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.